Imagine waking up in a world that you once despised, a dating simulation game of all things. A young man finds himself reincarnated into the body of a boy in this very game. Fast forward 10 years, and he's not just any boy anymore. He's Leon, now a wealthy baron with treasure to his name. With his newfound status, he sets out on a mission to find a suitable wife, enrolling himself at the academy for that very purpose. However, Leon soon discovers he's not the only one who's been reincarnated into this game world. As he interacts with others, he notices subtle shifts in the game's storyline and dialogue. Could it be that another reincarnated soul is behind these changes? The story begins with a young man calling out the main character of the game he's playing, accusing her of being a tricky fox. With dark circles under his eyes, he grumbles about how these Otama games are just too easy for girls. Stacy's have life on easy mode. Well duh, they're designed for them. Anyway, he keeps ranting about wasting his free time playing this Otama game when suddenly he gets a text from his little sister on vacation, flaunting her bikini pics. Turns out she's making him finish the game because she wants those special voice clips you get at the end, and he's being blackmailed by his sister too. She's got some dirt on him that he really doesn't want mom to find out. So, after days of gameplay and wrapping up the story, he's starving and decides to head to the convenience store. But then on the stairs, he slips and bam, he's a goner. Next thing, he's waking up in the body of a little kid in some grassy field, totally bewildered and feeling completely out of place. The young man recognizes the surroundings as the same world from the simulation game he had been playing. Suddenly, an old man smacks the boy for running away, especially since their boss lady is arriving that day. Just then, a well-dressed woman appears with her 2 children and an elf servant, expressing her hatred for country bumpkins. The woman next to the man scolding the boy apologizes for his behavior, and the well-dressed woman demands he remind her who he should be grateful to for the continuous existence of this family name, Bartford. The man bows his head and tells her it is she, Zola, who is behind the well-being of this family. Zola boasts that the man should remember the only reason a backcountry lord became a baron is because she married him. Later that night, the young boy asks another boy why they live in a shack instead of the main house. The other boy explains that Madame Zola treats the mistress's children badly and advises him to study hard if he wants to marry well at the academy. The mention of the academy triggers a quick flashback for the young boy to the academy in the simulation game he played before he fell. The second boy says that if they were born elves or beastmen, they would have no place in society except as someone's secret affair. Angry, the boy asks why do their lives suck so bad? Why does society not respect men? Welcome to the world, incel. The second boy explains that in their world, women are the alphas. That night, as he lies awake in the cramped little shack, the young man in the boy's body has a startling realization. He's Leon Bartford, reincarnated into the very Otama game he can't stand. 10 years after Leon remembered who the heck he was, he realizes that the Bartford family he now belongs to isn't even a part of the game he originally played. It hits him hard that he is just a nobody in this virtual world, a mere background character, a NPC. But Leon isn't about to let this define him. He makes it his mission to leverage his knowledge of the game to his advantage, meticulously recording every detail he can remember. He knows that depending on how things unfold, he might find himself in the midst of conflicts and battles. To stay safe from such dangerous situations, Leon keeps up a rigorous training while living on the floating island. But as time passes, his grand ambitions start to lose their shine. And just when Leon thinks he has life under control, Madame Zola drops a bombshell. It's time for Leon to be married off. Now, marriage might be the dream for some folks, but not for poor Leon. Turns out, he's about to be hitched to a granny who's a whopping 50 years old. 7 marriages deep and eyeing his pension like it's the jackpot. Wedded bliss? More like matrimonial hell. Leon bitterly explains that this granny is clearly on a quest for a lifetime of pensions, not love. Leon has dreams of going to the academy like anyone else and finding a good match there. But Zola shuts him down, saying academies cost too much and she already spent a lot on his father's second son from his side chick. She argues there is no point in sending a third son to the academy. Leon's father begins explaining they're broke AF, hinting that there are ways for Leon to earn money once he attends the academy. But before he can finish, Zola interjects, insisting that Leon will attend the arranged marriage meeting and appreciate the fact that someone was willing to marry his ugly face. Leon says no, but Zola says consent is not required and insists a man should work to support his family. She warns that if he keeps refusing, she'll send him to war. Zola adds that in their world, no one wants to marry a man over 20 and he's lucky that Granny wants him. In short, beggars can't be choosers. This is when Leon realizes he needs a plan or he'll have no future at all. In the next scene, he solemnly confronts his father, Balkas, pointing out that marrying someone like Zola is a living hell. Balkas has Stockholm Syndrome and is just grateful their marriage saved him from financial ruin. But Leon is adamant he won't be like his father. What's worse, the woman his father wants him to marry is 10 times uglier than Zola. Leon refuses to accept such a fate and is determined to find a workaround. Leon digs through his past memories from the game and a brilliant idea strikes him. Leon asks his father for a favor, to borrow a floating ship. He sets off on the ship, searching for an item he remembers from his time playing the game. According to the game's timeline, both he and the game's MC should be the same age and in the same grade. If she gets the item Leon is looking for, it will be after she starts at the academy. Leon feels a pang of guilt for his ulterior motives toward her and pledges to repay her somehow to balance things out. On the ship, Leon spots a monster that he remembers as a big XP boost in the game. He defeats it and keeps notes of his discoveries. Suddenly, he notices a transporter above him and gets swept away by the wind, ending up in a place he recognizes from the game. Grateful that he brought weapons along, Leon enters an abandoned building. Inside, he confronts a guard robot, dispatching it with electric magic bullets, which he recalls are effective from his gaming days. Just like in the game, Leon stumbles upon a skeleton in a separate room. It hits him hard that in this world based on an Otama game, real people expire. Determined, he resolves that he'd rather come to terms with that fate than marry an old woman. Using the skeleton's keycard, Leon gains access to a place he recalls as the ancient airship's home. Stepping into the control room, he's suddenly confronted by a higher-level robot. Despite numerous failed attempts to defeat it, the robot ominously declares that once it eliminates Leon, it will turn its sights on all humanity. Leon vows that such a plan will never see the light of day and finds a way to defeat the robot. Just as he's about to be crushed by its massive hands, he aims for its eyes, striking a fatal blow that ultimately brings the robot down. He rushes toward the object he's been longing for, a highly advanced ship. The airship's voice commands Leon to leave, but he ignores it and activates the ship. As it powers up, he discovers something surprising. Despite being a newcomer to this world, he possesses qualities to run their ships. The grumpy old ship's AI remarks that Leon is a blend of new and old human traits. He completes the setup process and names the airship Luxian. Just like in his games, Leon coughs up blood from wounds inflicted during the battle with the robot. He starts to wonder if this might be the end for him. If he does pass on, he hopes to be isekai'd into a better world next time. In the next scene, Zola blasts Leon for being a complete idiot who not only blew his chance at marriage, but also went off on some harebrained adventure and supposedly got himself eliminated. Balkas tries to defend his son, saying Leon's death isn't confirmed yet, but Zola cuts him off, pointing out it's been 3 whole months with no word from him. Just then, Leon swoops in with the airship, overloaded with more treasure than even a king can dream of. Leon smirks to himself, realizing that with his newfound wealth, he can finally turn down Zola's arranged marriage and pursue his original plan of attending the academy. As he strolls through the garden, memories of Zola's stunned expression when he arrived with the airship and all its treasures flash through his mind. He silently acknowledges that he's now a free agent, a knight in his own right, and luckier than most to have found an uninhabited island fit for a baronet. On his way home in the next scene, Balkas breaks the news to Leon that he's being promoted to a baron for clearing out an uncharted dungeon and discovering a new floating island. Leon protests, arguing that the island is only suitable for a baronet and that's the rank he prefers. Balkas insists that Leon will need to find a high-ranking wife at the academy to match his new status. In addition to his title, Leon loses his pretty little mind at the thought of having to marry a woman just like his stepmother, Zola. But this time he knows he doesn't have a choice. Ulford Kingdom is the royal capital, a modern and beautiful city that exists in harmony with nature. The city consists of a population of more than 1 million people and is centered around the royals. This is where Leon will begin his academy life. At the academy, Leon immediately notices the striking resemblance of the school's structure and surroundings to those in the Otama game he played. Internally, he resolves to spend the next 3 years searching for a wife while diligently studying noble etiquette, learning the ins and outs of adventuring, and mastering magic within the school's grounds. But here's the kicker. Just like in the game, women rule the roost in this world. As Leon navigates the academy, he bumps into the prince and his entourage, characters he vividly remembers from the Otama game. Seeing them again reignites his old grudge against the game's main protagonists. Among them is the infamous redhead, the game's antagonist, and the daughter of the powerful duke, second only to the royal family in influence. Leon can't help but groan inwardly at the thought of dealing with these formidable women once more. As Leon strolls through the school grounds, he suddenly stumbles upon a scene straight out of the Otama game's script. The only twist: the protagonist's role is now played by a girl he swears he's never seen before. While Leon scratches his head trying to figure out why the protagonist is now replaced by a complete stranger, Luxian, his trusty robot, transforms into a small orb and swoops in through the window. Leon and his mechanical sidekick tease each other, with Leon casually mentioning his plans for a tea party. At the party, Leon quickly befriends 2 other country bumpkins like himself, who also struggle to get girls to look twice at them. The 3 of them have no girls to invite to their tea party, but Leon insists he couldn't be bothered as long as someone shows up. After all, a failed tea party would totally wreck their reputation. Suddenly, they witness a classic scene: girls fawning over the prince. Leon sighs, knowing it'll be a tough year with the prince and his fancy friends around. Leon can only watch in disbelief as the prince blatantly ignores his fiancée, Angelica, in favor of inviting some young chick he noticed earlier. Puzzled, Leon wonders why this familiar girl seems to be stepping into the protagonist's role. Where did the original protagonist disappear to anyway? In class, Leon is caught off guard when the teacher unexpectedly calls him to the front of the etiquette class. As he stands there awkwardly, he suddenly resolves to host the most spectacular tea party the academy has ever seen, despite his earlier claim that he doesn't care who attends. Later that day, Leon eagerly hosts a tea party for a baron's daughter. However, his excitement quickly turns to disappointment when the baron's daughter arrives accompanied by her very ugly and unpleasant friends and their servants. To make matters worse, they bluntly inform Leon that they're only attending his tea party to pass the time until the next, more extravagant one starts. As Leon goes about his day, he hears a commotion outside where a group of noble students are bullying a young blonde girl. To his surprise, he recognizes her as Olivia, the protagonist who had vanished from the game's storyline. Initially hesitant to interfere with the game's plot, Leon can't ignore Olivia's tears. He decides to extend an invitation to his tea party, which she graciously accepts. Olivia is a thankful and kind-hearted Stacy, leaving Leon suddenly feeling guilty for how he had unfairly judged her as a conniving protagonist when he played the game. Leon finds himself wondering if bullying is a usual thing for Olivia, because in the game, she definitely seemed like the type to stir up trouble. But now, the Olivia standing before him appears completely different, a softer, sweeter version. Olivia confides in him that nothing ever seems to go right for her, and she's unsure if the academy is a good fit for someone like her, a commoner. She admits she's eager to learn more about magic but feels clueless about the academy's hidden rules and agreements. Leon drops the bomb that he knows this dude who can totally sort things out. Next thing you know, he's spilling the tea to his older sis, who suggested that Olivia should cozy up to the queen bee of their class, none other than Angelica, the antagonist. Olivia, being a broke student, can't afford a gift, but thank the heavens for Leon. He let her borrow some cash to buy some fancy candy. Olivia wastes no time and rushes to meet Angelica. To Olivia's surprise, Angelica is actually impressed and assures her she's not getting kicked out. She even gives Olivia props for showing up. When Olivia reveals it was all thanks to Leon, Angelica nods approvingly, recognizing his skills. In another scene, Leon grumbles about his 2 pals ditching their class. The teacher announces a practical where students will put their magic and fighting skills to the test. They're tasked with heading to the dungeon to gather crystals, keeping an eye out for monsters. After teaming up with Olivia, they witness Angelica giving Marie a tongue lashing for sticking with the prince and not knowing her place. Curious, Leon asks Olivia about Marie. Olivia reveals she's from a poor Viscount family and has endured serious bullying. Just then, the prince's crew arrives and confronts Angelica. Deep in the dungeon, Olivia finds a crystal and excitedly mentions paying back the money Leon lent her for sweets. As they venture further, Leon realizes it might not be wise to get closer to Olivia since she is destined to befriend the prince's crew. They face a series of dungeon monsters, and during the battle, Leon gets bitten. The prince and his crew walk into the scene and take over. Angelica, who also ran at the sound of a battle, scoffs at Marie when the prince asks if she is scared. After defeating the rest of the monsters, Marie realizes that the prince is injured and heals him secretly. Angelica, whose eyes miss nothing, pushes Marie aside to examine the wound. She offers to treat the prince's wound, but the prince denies her the right to and walks away. Olivia also notices Leon's wound and quickly heals him, saying healing is the one thing she could do. Leon can't help but notice the shift in the game's dialogue. As the prince and his crew walk off with Marie, she glances back at Angelica with a sly smile. Cheeky cow. Later, the prince retrieves Marie's badly burned bag and textbook. He confronts Angelica, asking if she knew how Marie's things got burned. Angelica denies any involvement, but the prince reveals that witnesses snitched on her. Despite her protests, the prince warns Angelica to stay away from Marie, his friends, and himself. Public rejection. He emphasizes that their engagement is an arrangement outside the school and tells her to mind her business. Back in Leon's dorm, he and his buddies gossip like girls about the recent engagements of some guys with girls who have been kind to them, leaving only the mean girls as potential wives. Leon mentioned he had sent out tea party invites, but no girls want anything to do with them. Mr. Greenhair gossips that Prince Julius is in hot water due to the ongoing bullying of Marie. Leon remembers a scene from the game where Julius unexpectedly lashes out at Angelica, but he knows it's supposed to happen much later. Later in the library, Leon and Olivia discuss Marie's bullying. At one point, Olivia asks if Leon has feelings for Marie, but he denies it, claiming he actually dislikes her. Olivia recounts how she once found Marie alone in the courtyard and asked if she was okay, but Marie gave her a cold stare and said she despises girls like Olivia. Leon ponders Marie's harsh response and realizes they're not alone in the library. Leon hears a suspicious moaning noise and decides to investigate, declaring that hookups are a big deal around here. Olivia tags along, scolding Leon for being a voyeur. They quietly sneak to a hidden corner in the library and witness Marie locking lips with one of the prince's buddies. Seriously, girl? We get it, you're cute, but making out with different guys and friends at that. You are a hoochie mama. Later in the hallway, Marie smirks to herself, noticing how the mean girls at school have backed off ever since the prince publicly checked Angelica. Then the prince approaches Marie and offers to arrange a personal assistant for her to ease her loneliness, since she doesn't have a servant. Marie puts on a grateful facade, but inside, she's plotting to have a handsome demi-human servant she can manipulate. In Angelica's dorm, her friends scoff at the prince's offer to Marie, highlighting the unfairness that Marie gets a servant while Angelica is forbidden from having one. Angelica tells her mean girls to cut the shite and that the prince knows the implication of a woman who has a demi-human slave. She politely asks them to leave and then loses her mind in private. Meanwhile, Leon's older sister Jenna bursts into his room late at night to discuss Marie and the recent trouble involving her and the prince. She asks Leon if he's been involved, cautioning him not to get on the wrong side of the prince, especially since he's destined for the throne. Leon reassures Jenna that he's not involved in any of the drama. The scene shifts to a dinner party where Marie is dressed simply in her school uniform, while Angelica dazzles in an elegant gown. In another corner of the dining room, Leon and his friends make a pact to finally get laid, but their hopes are dashed when they approach some girls and are promptly ridiculed. After all, no one wants to marry country bumpkins like them. Super burn. Meanwhile, Olivia urgently calls Leon over to witness an unfolding emergency. Leon rushes over and finds Angelica and the prince in a heated argument. It turns out, Angelica confronts Marie with a warning and informs the prince that she caught Marie holding hands with a man who wasn't him. To Angelica's surprise, the prince already knows about it. Seriously, Marie? You look like you just stepped out of kindergarten, but you're out here playing hand-holding games with every guy in sight. And to top it off, all of the prince's minions are head over heels for her. After each one pours their heart out to her, Prince Julius declares no one can take her place in his heart and drops the bomb on poor Angelica. saying he's calling off the engagement. In a burst of rage, Angelica throws down her gloves and challenges Marie to a duel. The prince, his buddies, and Marie's servant all volunteer to fight on her behalf. Basically, every guy in the vicinity is ready to go to war for her. Simps. Marie puts on a facade of relief at their support, while Angelica scans the room for anyone willing to back her up. Unfortunately, even her friends turn her down. Leon realizes that if Angelica loses now, according to the game's plot, she'll end up married to some old awful lord. Despite his attempts to resist, Leon finds himself drawn to step forward as Angelica's proxy. Reflecting on his discoveries about Marie's origins, Leon understands they both come from another world. Marie is also isekai'd. With a confident smirk, Leon proposes a showdown in full armor, one-on-one, to settle their beef once and for all. They make a big bet for the duel. If Marie wins, Angelica has to stay away from both her and the prince. But if Angelica wins, Marie and the prince will be over. The prince and his friends confidently agree to these terms. Weirdos? The next morning, Marie grumbles about the mob character trying to ruin her plans, but she quickly pretends when her servant enters with her breakfast. It turns out she also played the game in her previous life, but her brother finished it because it annoyed her. Could she possibly be the younger sibling of our MC/mob character from his previous life? Drama? After returning to his dorm, Luxian informs his master that students have vandalized it during his absence, and they even created a voting poll on who they think will win the upcoming duel. In the next scene, Angelica urges Leon to withdraw, warning him that after the duel, she will lose her influence. Leon dismisses her, stating he's not interested in favors and has volunteered because he knows he can win. He points out that their 5 opponents are not as strong as they think they are, and thus, the moment everyone has been waiting for finally arrives, and in the arena, the audience and opponents can't contain their laughter at Leon's choice of armor. But amidst the uproar, Leon stands there with a grin that displays his confidence. In the midst of the snickering crowd, Olivia asks why everyone is laughing at Leon's armor choice. Angelica explains to Olivia that Leon's armor is probably a relic from a bygone era, irreplaceable and ridiculously outdated compared to the sleek, high-tech armor of today. As the duel kicks off, Leon squares off against Brad, the guy with the wild purple hair. The audience can't contain themselves, especially when they see Leon wielding a shovel as his weapon. Brad, clearly feeling insulted, threatens to crush Leon with a single mighty swing of his weapon. But with just one touch of the shovel, Brad and his armor fall to the ground in defeat. Leon is shocked that his opponent fell, and Luxian tells him that if he had hit with full force, Brad would have expired. The referees declare Leon as the winner. Marie is fuming, while Angelica delights and wonders why a man as strong as Leon would make an enemy of the prince to side with her. Julius says their opponent's confidence comes from his armor. Jilk adds that he never knew there were overpowered lost items in the form of armor like Leon's. Greg the Ginger calls Brad a softy and vows to beat Leon. Luxian warns his master that his ginger opponent has plenty of combat experience fighting in armor. Greg tells Leon he can't win because his armor is too powerful. Leon smirks and says if Greg wants to battle rap, he should invite him to a tea party. Infuriated, Greg launches a series of aggressive attacks. After a few intense minutes, Leon defeats Greg and rips his armor to shreds. Greg refuses to accept defeat, declares he'll fight without. Leon declines, saying he doesn't enjoy bullying softies. Then he proceeds to verbally tear Greg apart. Greg is shocked and asks when they've ever bullied anyone. Leon mocks him for his lack of self-awareness and expresses his disdain for nobles who get special treatment, as Greg embarrasses himself by futilely hitting Leon's armor. The referee declares Leon the winner and asks Greg to leave the arena. In the next round, Leon faces Chris, Mr. Blue Hair. Chris vows not to fight for honor. Unlike his previous opponents, Leon promises to do the same. The referee announces the third round, and Leon calls on Luxian to deploy some drones. As the drones start firing at Chris complains about Leon's sly tactics. Leon calmly points out that shooting isn't against the rules, but since his opponents are so weak, he'll hold back. Annoyed, Chris charges Leon, but Leon effortlessly grabs Chris's sword and breaks it in half. Jesus, Chris is now on his knees, asking God why he lost when he worked the hardest amongst his friends. With a hint of spite, Leon tells Chris to brag about his hard work to Marie. The audience buzzes with confusion, wondering how the so-called country bumpkin defeated 3 of the school's most powerful students. Meanwhile, Jilk is determined to defeat Leon at any cost, even resorting to a dangerous move. He conspires with Leon's sister Jenna to plant a bomb in Leon's armor during a break from the battles. Meanwhile, Angelica and Olivia set off to find Leon out of concern, unaware of Jilk and Jenna's scheme. Little does Jilk and Jenna know, Leon is already aware of their plot. Luxin informs Leon that his armor has been rigged with explosives by his sister under Jilk's orders. Leon learns from Luxin that the amount of explosives is enough to kill the pilot in the arena. Before the 4th round starts, Jilk commends Leon for being a strong opponent. As the referee announces the beginning of the round, Jilk throws a smoke bomb and flies into the sky, launching an anti-armor bomb at Leon. Realizing Leon's armor is undamaged, Jilk activates the planted explosives. Luxin warns his master about the impending explosion, and Leon's armor detonates. Jilk apologizes, claiming he resorted to such measures out of loyalty to the prince. After the smoke clears from the explosion, Leon calls out to Jilk. Floating in the air, Jilk asks Leon how he managed to withstand such a powerful blast. Jilk warns Leon that fighting against the prince means his life as a noble is over. Leon responds calmly, stating that's exactly what he wants and he's prepared to do whatever it takes to achieve it. Jilk probes further, asking if Leon's goal is to eliminate the prince. Leon jokingly says that if he did, Jilk would have fewer rivals. Jilk asserts that both he and the prince love Hoochie Mama Marie, and he threatens Leon's family if he harms the prince. Leon taunts Jilk, asking if he plans to let the prince and Marie hear about his threat, but Jilk laughs it off, questioning if Leon has any proof of his words. With a sly smile, Leon plays back a recording of Jilk making the threat. Leon boldly calls out Jilk for being a coward who tried to threaten his opponent and sneakily put explosives in his armor when things weren't going his way. Angered by Leon's accusation, Jilk charges at him but gets knocked down with just 2 hits. Marie, amazed and annoyed by Leon's strength, wonders aloud how he can be so tough in the game. The prince brags about his fancy armor, made with the best tech in the kingdom, trying to reassure Marie. She nods along but secretly thinks it's all talk, remembering how all 4 of the prince's buddies boasted the same before getting beat down. She knows they aren't that great at the game and often lose. After the prince leaves for the ring, Marie drops her act and sighs about how tiring it is to act so naive. The crowd cheers for the prince, clueless about what's really going on. Meanwhile, Leon chuckles at their ignorance for thinking the prince can beat someone who just took down 4 of his pals. He knows the prince and his crew might get stronger later, but right now, they're no match for him. Impressed by Leon's skill, the prince gives him props. Leon casually asked about the prince's thoughts on Olivia. Julius admits they haven't talked much, so he doesn't have much to say about her. Satisfied with the answer, Leon gets ready for their fight as the referee kicks off the final round. Leon points out that Julius has the strongest armor, nothing more. As the duel begins, Leon attacks first, but Julius easily blocks his blow. The crowd cheers for Julius, who declares he can't afford to lose for Marie's sake. Leon mocks Julius's friends for not giving their best, adding sarcastically that if Julius loses, his friends can get closer to Marie. Julius accused Leon of not understanding him or his people. Leon brushes it off, saying he doesn't need to understand to see the trouble they are in. He then asks Julius how it feels to love someone. Julius accuses Leon of getting in the way without understanding love, saying if someone truly loved another, they would step aside. Leon asks if he means Angelica, suggesting she loves him deeply. Julius denies it, claiming Angelica is the same as the other women at the royal palace who don't see the real him. He admits he never wanted to be noble and that only Marie understands and loves his true self. Leon accuses Julius of being naive for falling for someone like Marie not fit for royalty. Angered, Julius charges at Leon, asking how it feels to lecture someone from a high horse. Leon taunts Julius, asking how it feels to lose to a country bumpkin. Julius vows to fight to the death, and Angelica tearfully realizes Julius doesn't love her. Olivia stands up for Angelica, saying even if Julius loves Marie, Angelica still cares for him. Stalker much. Marie looks at Olivia with pure hatred, deciding there is no place for Leon in this game. Julius rejects Angelica's feelings, saying what she feels isn't love but obligation, begging her to leave him alone. "Why you so obsessed, Angelica?" After that scolding, Julius tells Leon to refocus. Leon said he can't end Julius and that if it came to a fight to the end, he'd win as prince. He urged Julius to use his authority to declare himself the winner. The audience is disgusted by Leon's words, chanting for Julius to end the fight. Leon confides in Lucian that his reason for acting like a villain is to help the prince avoid being played by women like Marie when he becomes king. During their battle, Leon warns Julius that antagonizing Angelica and the Redgrave family could jeopardize his noble status and his claim to the throne. Julius says he'd give up everything to be with Marie. In the end, Leon lands a decisive blow and is declared the winner. He approaches Angelica, who thanks him. Later, Olivia asks why Leon is so harsh to the prince and his friends. Leon claims he is only playing the villain they need and plans to leave the academy. In the next scene, the prince calmly tells Angelica they have no future together and she leaves, finally accepting the truth. The next day, Leon begs forgiveness from the head of the Redgrave family. He gives up his titles and part of his wealth to ensure his family's safety. The head of the Redgrave family asks why Leon volunteered to champion his daughter against the prince. Though Leon's true motive is to give the royal folks a thrashing and escape his bride-hunting ordeal, he keeps this to himself. Instead, he explains that it is for the kingdom's sake, to teach the prince that love alone can't solve everything. However, Angelica's father has a favor to ask in return. He requests Leon's help in taking Angelica to the countryside for a change of scenery, accompanied by Olivia. On the airship journey to their destination, Angelica confides in Olivia her feelings after being publicly rejected by the prince. Meanwhile, back at Leon's home, his father can't conceal his disappointment. Not only has Leon clashed with the prince, but is also returning with a duke's daughter in tow. Zola enters the room and promptly slaps her husband for fun. This is when Angelica enters the room, warmly greeted by the household staff. With a hint of disdain, Zola asks who the heck she is. Politely, Angelica reveals she's from the Redgrave family. This revelation stuns Zola, who suddenly shifts to treating Angelica with utmost respect. Angelica graciously explains how Leon has assisted her and why she accepted his invitation to spend her holiday at their home. Zola, attempting to regain her composure, invites Angelica to make herself comfortable and excuses herself to gather her thoughts. Later, Olivia and Angelica enjoy the view of Leon's island when Angelica suddenly smells something wonderful. Leon tells them there's a hot spring nearby, so they decide to take a dip. They check out each other's bodies and compliment them while bathing. While they're in the bath, Angelica admits feeling jealous about Leon and Olivia possibly being a couple. Olivia blushes and says she doesn't think Leon sees her that way. She suggests Leon might like Angelica, but Angelica denies it, claiming she's not a perfect person. Insecurities. After their bath, Leon walks in and sees them happily looking at themselves, and they all start using informal nicknames. Leon advises Angelica that the best revenge is to enjoy life. In the next scene, Marie loses it when she hears the prince and his friends are losing their noble titles. The prince and his buddies gather to figure out what to do about Leon, while Marie cries over losing her dream of living in luxury. All she wants is to be pampered and enjoy the royal life. Well, who doesn't? Meanwhile, at Bartford Estate, a royal messenger announces that Leon has been promoted to a 6th-rank soldier for advising the prince. When Leon returns to school, he's thankful to have Olivia and Angelica with him. On the other hand, Marie and her ex-lovers have teamed up as adventurers, training hard to take down Leon. They've moved from romance to a quest for revenge. They're set on bringing Leon down by hunting for a rare item that can outshine him. Meanwhile, Olivia and Angelica parade in their maid outfits for Leon for the school's festival. Leon blushes and reminds himself that in the Otama game setting, he can't have a romantic relationship with his friends since he's just a MOB character. Suddenly, Jenna bursts into the room demanding tea from Leon. After calming down, Jenna admits to breaking girl code by fighting with her best friend over a boy and stealing the boy for herself. Leon doesn't really care, saying it's Jenna's fault for being a traitor. Jenna wants Leon to take her side, but Olivia disagrees. Jenna tells Olivia to shut up, but Leon refuses to listen to Jenna's demands and defends Olivia. After Jenna leaves angrily, Olivia thanks Leon for standing up for her. Soon after, Daniel and Raymond rush into the room reporting suspicious activity. In another room, Leon and his friends panic upon hearing that the prince and his crew have opened a cafe next door. Julius invites Leon to check out their new place. Curious, Leon follows his rival and is surprised to find that their cafe is designed like a bar. Julius assures Leon they'll succeed this time, but Leon argues competing in the school festival is pointless. Marie tries to bully Leon, but he mocks her attempt. On the day of the school's festival, Olivia struggles to attract customers to their cafe. Meanwhile, a new girl named Carla approaches Olivia and expresses excitement about visiting the cafe. Somewhere, a woman in a dark room is happy to have seen Leon. The next day, Leon motivates his friends to give their best on the second day of the festival. The girls are thrilled about their first experience working in a cafe. At the same time, a teacher summons Angelica to the committee headquarters. Lady Mylene, the queen and mother of the prince, meets with Angelica and reminisces about their past encounters. They chat, and Lady Mylene playfully teases Angelica about Leon, asking to meet him and apologizing for her son's behavior. Back at the cafe, Olivia and Leon notice the long line at the prince's cafe. Lady Mylene talks about her intention to cause a scene at Leon's cafe. However, when she enters, she sees a customer dashing a cup of tea at Leon. While Leon picks up the pieces, the customer slams her foot on his head and disses him. She refuses to pay and tells him how much money she lost betting against him in the duel. Lady Mylene, noticing the commotion, asks what's really good. Angelica intervenes, calmly asking the rude customer to go. The customer mocks Angelica as the prince's rejected lover. Angelica then recognizes her as the daughter of Count Offray, a rival family. Olivia tries to reason with the spoilt brat, but she insults Olivia, calling her Angelica's pet dog. When Angelica tries to dismiss her, the Count's daughter reminds her of past insults against peasants. Leon can't hold back and tells her off, but she orders her servant to slap him. The queen intervenes, but the Count's daughter, who's unaware of her identity, insults her. The queen politely asks her to pay and go, but still the Count's daughter boasts about her status and attempts to throw the queen out. Leon sees red and starts swatting the Count's daughter's servants like he is a ninja in a mosquito-smashing contest, ignoring the fact he'd been beaten earlier. When the mean girl questions his rampage, Leon dramatically reveals the queen's identity and warns her about the dire consequences for disrespecting royalty. Meanwhile, he keeps bashing the mean girl's servants like they owe him rent money. Realizing Leon is going full buzzard mode, Angelica panics and dials up the tea master for backup. In the next scene, Leon apologizes to the queen, pleading for her forgiveness over a cup of tea, as if it can magically undo his Royal Rumble rampage. After apologizing for her son's behavior, the queen expresses her distaste for duels. They continue to chat, and she shares that she came from a neighboring country and has never been to an academy before. She asks Leon to help her create happy memories at the academy, and Leon graciously agrees. That's when Leon drops to one knee and proposes to the queen, suggesting they get married to create those happy memories together. Ooh, child. He doesn't care that she's a married MILF or that she is the queen. However, before he can finish his ramblings, the prince lands a heavy punch to his head and warns Leon to watch his mouth. The prince punches him again and swiftly escorts his mom away to his cafe. At her son's cafe, the queen demands to meet the decorator. Marie, who is hiding nearby, worries about how the queen will react if she finds out her son is serving girls. Mylene complains about their high prices and criticizes their clothing. She reminds her son about his agreement to stay away from Marie after losing the duel. Nervously, Julius explains he's helping Brad and the others who are with Marie. Mylene accuses him of making excuses and demands they bring Marie to her. At Leon's cafe, Leon is obsessing over the queen. Angelica says he's the biggest fool for trying it with the queen. Carla, the girl Olivia had met before, enters the cafe, but Leon tells her they are closed because he is heartbroken. Carla spots Olivia and asks her to pass on her previous request. With a smile, Olivia announces Carla wants Leon to meet her formally. Carla then surprises Leon by getting on her knees and begging him to help her family. The next day in Leon's dorm, Lucian asks if he is willing to assist Carla's family. Leon explains he can only do it during their break after the school festival, mainly because Olivia has asked him and he doesn't want to embarrass her. Lucian is surprised, but Leon insists he is only helping to save face for Olivia. In the next scene, Leon and his friends watch awkwardly as the girls clean up in silence. Leon decides to break the awkward silence by giving the girls a breather from cleaning. Daniel and Raymond are grumbling about their poor sales, but Leon confidently assures them that they'll make $1 million on the festival's last day. During their break, Angelica and Olivia overhear students talking excitedly about an upcoming bike race. Angelica mentions she's part of the executive committee and spills the tea that Dan Fia-Erger is the crowd favorite. However, all eyes are on Jill because of his crazy skills with air bikes. The girls can't help but chuckle at the thought of Leon betting on the races instead of participating, even though he's totally capable. Meanwhile, Marie is on a mission to convince Jill to win the race because of the huge prize money involved. When her servant asks why she isn't betting herself, Marie launches into a hilarious story about her ex who has a gambling addiction, swearing off relying on luck ever again. When the bike race finally starts, Leon is pumped up believing his bets will pay off with Jill winning, all thanks to his AI buddy Lucian. Angelica and Olivia approach Leon, warning him about his gambling habits. They settle in to watch the race unfold,